Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday, 9:02 a.m. here, California time. November 21st, 2024 is the date. Quite a bit of rainfall falling here in Northern California. We'll get to that here towards the end of this update video. I want to cover a few things right off the bat here in earthquake activity. 3.2 earthquake coming in here. Looks like just about half an hour or so ago off the Northern California coastline. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the map. USGS reporting this earthquake here in the Blanco fracture zone. Now, 3.2, not a big earthquake, but it is some movement going on up here across this area on the earthquake 3D globe. It looks like a little bit further up north here along the northern end of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. Seen a 3.6 earthquake here earlier this morning as well. So we are getting some adjustment that's taking place out here across this area of the plate boundary. Continue to watch the Cascadia Subduction Zone. Tremor activity last night. Let's see what we got here for Cascadia tremor. I didn't get a chance to do a late night update. Was kind of tired, so just went to bed. Nothing. Zip zero going on for tremor activity across the subduction zone area. But as you can see, movement starting to pick up here across the Blanco fracture zone and also further up north here along the northern edge of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. That definitely showing some movement here today. The rest of Northern California out here pretty quiet aside from getting a whole bunch of rainfall. Goodness, I picked up just about 5 inches of rainfall here in the last 36 hours or so. Got a bunch more coming in. Southern California, as you can see here, pretty absent of earthquake activity in terms of 2.5 and above. Mostly smaller microquake activity out here today. Not a whole lot happening down south here. This activity, majority of it here from yesterday, that little swarm out here across the Imperial Fault, as you can see here, and a little bit outside the Salton Sea area, just west there. But we'll continue to watch it. A lot of times adjustment takes place up north, and then it will swing back down south. We'll have to observe it and see what happens today. Yellowstone National Park, a little earthquake coming in right now, 1.7. Let me double check the Yellowstone seismograph thumbnails and see what we have here. Got actually a few earthquakes out there across Yellowstone. Let's see here. I guess we'll choose this one. In the last few hours or so, as you can see there, a handful of earthquakes showing up there across the Yellowstone area. Nothing big. Now, in fact, the one that just came in right here is going to be a 1.7. Earlier this morning, a 2.1 in that same area. That's going to be this one. But if you look, there's a handful, definitely a handful here of more, a little bit smaller earthquake activity here in the Yellowstone region. So we got what looks like maybe a little start of a swarm. Also late last night here, notice this little earthquake cluster here. Quite a few earthquakes popping off on that map. That barely showed up here across Mary Lake. But the majority of these 1-pointers, 1.5 or so, are definitely showing up around the region. So things are on the uptick out here across Yellowstone National Park, and it is centered north of Yellowstone Lake. Looks like that is on the outside of the Yellowstone caldera, just on the edge up here. Mainly, it looks like the epicenter is going to be around the Mary Lake area. So we'll continue to watch that. Definitely seeing some uptick out here across the region here today. Texas, oil fields out here, getting hit with quite a few earthquakes this morning. Mainly twos, very noticeable here on the earthquake 3D globe. Look at that stack of earthquakes there outside of Pecos, Texas. Out in the oil fields. So we'll show you satellite imagery out here. No telling how many new operations have been built out here in the desert of Texas. But there's a wastewater pond, injection pond out there, oil pad, and pumping operations out there. There's a cluster going on here across this area. But again, it's possible maybe some new operations have been built, or maybe some older operations that have been erased, and now they're finally starting to get hit with earthquake activity. But there's a large amount of earthquake activity out there in those oil fields Texas has been getting hit pretty hard with earthquakes here recently. Nebraska, up around Harvard, Nebraska. Don't see too much earthquake activity out here, but we did last night, a little 2.8. Let's see if anybody felt it out there in the beautiful state of Nebraska. It has been reviewed. Only a few folks out there, well west of Lincoln, probably in a highly unpopulated area of Nebraska. But a little bit of movement taking place. The New Madrid seismic zone, a 1.8 early this morning. And even some activity up in the Connecticut area last night with a 2.3. So a handful of earthquakes out here across the North American continent. Normally, when things are really rocking and rolling out here across in the Texas area, in the oil fields, that's a good sign of strain building out here on the North American plate here. And a lot of times we'll see elevated earthquake activity followed up by inland movement. That includes the New Madrid seismic zone, other areas out here across the east. And these newer quakes here are following an intense amount of earthquake activity out here in Texas in the last 7 days. Big time swarm here south of San Antonio. A lot happening outside of Snyder, Texas, and Midland. And, of course, our typical zone out here outside of Pecos. So things on the elevated out here across Texas, Oklahoma oil fields, and now some newer quake activity filling in various areas out here across the eastern portion of the country, including South Carolina. Now, got to watch South Carolina because this area is capable of producing some very large earthquakes here. There was a series of large earthquakes back in, I can't remember the exact date, but they can see some big quakes out here. As you can see on the hazard map, that one pointer struck right in the area outside of Mount Pleasant area, Charleston area, where the large earthquake potential can take place. So we'll have to cover that on another time period when the last one struck out there. I've covered it numerous times, but I can't remember the exact date. Let's see what else we got here across the globe. Still a little under the weather here, folks. It's lingering like crazy. New Zealand, couple threes, deep, super deep activity here across the Tonga region. Quite a few fours there into the Tonga Trench. And some shallow adjustment going on here across New Guinea area. Northward, clustering going on here in your typical crunch zone. Still watching Japan here. They've been quite active over the last couple days along this area of the Kuril-Kamchatka, the Japan Trench. Everywhere except for the Kumano Ridge here. This is that subduction zone that's feared here that will produce a mega quake soon. And that warning was put out there from the Japanese government. Let's see, rest of the globe down here fairly active across the Middle America Trench and the Peru-Chile Trench, but that's almost always active, folks. That's a major subduction zone, therefore we're always seeing earthquake activity out there. That's nothing new. That can happen on any given day out there. 2s and 3s are super common. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. Got Iceland up there rumbling. Check this out. Look what's happening there around the Blue Lagoon parking lot. I've never been up there across Iceland, but this is the parking lot area. This is a overview, probably from a drone shot, I'm guessing. The parking lot getting engulfed here by magma. Now they're doing a pretty decent job of putting a berm up here to protect the facility itself, which is obviously pretty important there that they protect the Blue Lagoon as a major tourist attraction there. So that berm is up, but the parking lot there, yeah, looks like they're going to have to build a new parking lot if things don't take a turn here for the worse and actually, cover the Blue Lagoon itself as well. Let's take a look here and see what we got in terms of the most recent information here. There's another time-lapse video from one of the webcams there, Blue Lagoon facility. There's that berm. You can barely see the berm. Let's see if I can zoom in. Wow, that's a huge image. Blue Lagoon area parking lot region was back over here. That's now being obviously covered up and eaten by that lava flow. But there's a pretty significant berm right here. Looks like they're developing to protect this area of the Blue Lagoon. Yeah, it looks like it's flown mainly to the west and south there across the area. Again, there's the parking lot slowly getting eaten away. And that's just a fact of life up there across Iceland. You know, this has been an ongoing off and on event here since November of last year with multiple eruptions. This is the furthest one to the west and south. So let's see what we got here for the latest information from the Icelandic site here. Lava flow over a parking lot at the Blue Lagoon. Lava never flowed this far to the west. This is translated from Icelandic to English, so the the vocabulary and the correct wording out here is off. But yeah, this is probably about the farthest the lava flow has made it. Let's see. It looks like they're going to do the risk assessment tomorrow. The lava tube there has flowed over the hot water pipe. Crazy. Lava reached the parking lot of the Blue Lagoon and is still moving. The advanced speed of the lava is estimated at over 100 meters per hour. Is that right? That's what it states here. So, so this is an older image here. Here's the parking lot area, I believe, Blue Lagoon, what we've seen there on that image. There's I don't know if this is where the folks stay, like maybe some type of, motel, resort, hotel. I don't know what they call it out there. But, yeah, it's a big tourist attraction out there, major moneymaker. And the lava, goodness, this is the closest I believe it's ever been. Covered up that parking lot. So there is a berm right here in the red outline. Here's the most recent lava flow flowing down this way. So it should, if it continues, should go south there. But, there's a reason why the Svartsengi power plant is tapping down into the heated areas below. So there's always a possibility we could see an eruption right across that area underneath the Blue Lagoon or the power plant here. Very possible. This is not a considerable distance here. And all the activity here over the last year has been luckily, around this area. Not within it, but you never know, right? Nothing's stopping that. They could easily get a magma intrusion underneath this area, and this would be completely destroyed. It's always a scenario, not fear-mongering, but hey, it's literally within, some meters from all the recent activity. So obviously some possibility there of some worst-case scenario options there. Let's see. All right, so yeah, just let me go over here to the live from Iceland, see if their site is set up again. I don't know, something's different about this. It looks a lot less than what they had before. Live from Iceland.is, that's a site. It used to look a lot cooler. Now it's only showing 3 up here, so I don't know what's going on. But let's see what we got here for the latest image. This is a live look, a lot of traffic there in the background. I don't know if those are going to be maybe construction workers coming in to save the day. Hard to tell, but the lava field there looks quite active out there still. Moving along slowly but surely. Let's take a look here at the another image. Oh yeah, still very active. Again, that's all live. Not for sure where this one's at. This looks like a different region up there, but away from the eruption area. So again, this is live from Iceland.is. That is the site to check out if you want a live view. But that's pretty crazy. Let's check out the inflation, see what's happened up there. Svartsengi area for inflation data. There's the there we go. So this is the past couple months. Our last eruption was what, back in August, I think, towards the end of August. So we've been going up and up and up and up. They had forecasted here that they weren't expecting an eruption in November. But one day after they jinxed it, we got an eruption. So yeah, they put out on the 19th, just literally 2 days ago, that they do not expect an eruption in Iceland this month in this area. Look how quick karma can come about. Pretty crazy. I see it all the time. But there's the inflation drop here on the inflation chart, meaning that there's depletion of lava or the magma from below. And how long this will last, we'll have to see here. But either way, awfully close there to the Blue Lagoon. Beautiful area, but, that's you're literally on top of a rift zone volcano. Come on, that's crazy. All right, so there's that 3.2 Montana area getting some further movement up north along the fault system up here. This is all stress related with Yellowstone in terms of not volcano activity, but fault stress. There's numerous faults out here across the area. We'll continue to watch that. Again, Southern California pretty quiet for now. Last 24 hours, largest magnitude here so far today is going to be this 5.2 into the Mariana region, Mariana Trench, southern end here. Pretty shallow, 24 miles deep here into that subduction zone just outside of Guam. So still waiting on that 8-pointer, folks, somewhere out here. I have a feeling it's coming pretty soon. But, your guess is as good as mine as to where it's going to be. Taking a look here at the space weather activity, things are dying down. I had my hopes up here for the sunspot 3901, but looking fairly stable here. There's still a little bit of complexity, but I don't think this thing's going to produce any more stronger flares. Back when it was out on the far side of the sun, yes, it was fairly complex, popping off a lot of flare activity, but now it's pretty much dead. And there's not a whole lot out here on the eastern limb that we have to look forward to in terms of elevated seismic activity. I can see the magnetic structure of these. So, when they're out on the far side and you're looking at the far side watch, you really can't see the complexity of the sunspots. Here's that sunspot group here when it was on the far side a few days back. Notice the deep dark colors out there indicating a more complex, deeply structured sunspot group. But since then, it's lightened up, and out here on the eastern limb, we're seeing where we're at right now. It's diminished. That sunspot group has. And if we look on the most recent image here, there's one area here of deep dark color, maybe indicating a strong sunspot, and a couple here mid center disk on the far side. But that's not. It's going to be here in a few days. So this one here in a couple days as well. There's not a whole lot here that will venture out on the eastern limb. So I think we're going to enter into just a little bit of quietness unless we get a sunspot region popping up out of the blue. But I'm not seeing it. Maybe two back over here, it looks like. These are newer sunspots. But those are going to be out of sight, out of mind here in a day. One area up here that's circled. Let's see what it looks like in the most recent image. That's dissipated. So, yeah, really not expecting too much here, folks, for solar flaring. No major roars in the forecast. Pretty quiet. All right. Oh, goodness. All right, so no major severe weather today, folks. That's not the issue we're dealing with. What we are dealing with is a whole bunch of rainfall out here, folks. Goodness. I picked up here, I live outside of Chico, just over 5 inches. We should be at 5 inches now of rainfall since it started raining yesterday early morning. That's a lot of rainfall. You know how dry my ground has been? Huge cracks in the ground. So fortunately, all this rainfall has just been soaking up down into the cracks and into the ground. And that's good because that acts as a sponge. So it's so dry. We're making that land moist again. And that's good. Preventing potential flooding. Because had this been 5 inches on top of already super soaked ground, we'd be talking about some decent flooding occurring around here. Reading area, I don't know how much rain they picked up, but I'm sure they picked up quite a bit. Storm reports. I guess there was some water spout activity out there off the coast of Washington yesterday. I'm not seeing anything showing up here on the storm reports there, officially anyway. But pretty crazy. We still have, let's see what we got here across California. Yeah, active region, obviously. That's, yeah. I asked for it, and sure enough, it came. We still got a flood watch out here across, looks like Colusa County northward. That includes Marysville, Yuba County, Sutter County. Sacramento's been getting a little gypped in terms of the good moisture out here. It's been, the atmospheric river has been lined up right about here northward, and it's just like a fire hose of moisture that's been flooding us. Not really flooding us, but giving us a whole bunch of rainfall. And that is okay with me. Moderate to heavy rainfall. Let's see, rainfall amounts. Now, this is for today into Friday night. This is an additional 4 to 6 inches on top of the 5 inches I've already got here outside of Chico. A little bit less across the Central Valley here. Sacramento looks like 2 to 3 inches less as you get down to San Joaquin Valley. But we still got a couple more inches of rainfall to deal with. And I think we'll be okay. There's obviously, some decent ponding on top of the asphalt and the cement there if you live inside the city limits. But out in the country out here, the ground's soaking it up pretty, fairly nicely there. Chance there of slight chance of some excessive rainfall, big time out here across the Eureka area in the Coast Range. They've been getting hammered, absolutely hammered with a lot of rainfall. Goodness. Perfect time for a train to blow through here, sounds like. So let's look at the GFS weather models here and see what we have coming up for the West Coast. There's our current. Before we go to that, I want to show you guys real quick the satellite imagery. There's that massive low pressure system. I'm going to go back the last 12 hours here and show you guys the run here. Beautiful low pressure system tapping into this moisture plume. That's a heavily induced area of water vapor. So the low pressure providing uplift, convection for that moisture, and it's just been dumping rain all across Northern California. And look, it's just aimed right there. It hasn't budged at all. We do have another developing low pressure system back here. Notice a little counterclockwise circulation there, a developing low that's going to tap into this moisture again and give us further rainfall here coming up tonight and in tomorrow. But that low pressure system, the massive one up here, is just kind of sitting there a little bit off the coast, really not doing much. Colder air back over here across the east, but that is a dandy of a system. I'm loving it. Okay, so a glance here at the current GFS model showing that aimed right at Northern California. We'll put this into motion. There's that low pressure system developing that I was just telling you about. Going to tap into that moisture, provide more amplification there for the rainfall. And look at those rainfall rates there across Northern California, ramping up once again. Oregon, Washington going to get in on that as well. Eventually, that moisture plume shifts a little bit further south. Looks like maybe the San Joaquin Valley might pick up on a little bit of moisture, but nothing like what we've picked up here in the last 36 hours. After that, looks like we dry up a little bit towards the middle of next week, and looks like it might remain dry there for a little bit. So we'll have to see. These weather models can change in a blink of an eye, but we got some decent rainfall to deal with right now, and I'm loving it. No joke. Little earthquake there on China Lake Station. And let me see what that is here. Is it showing up on the USGS map? It really isn't. They've been getting some earthquake activity out here around China Lake, and nothing's showing up on the graphs. I don't get it. Periodically these earthquakes will pop up there on China Lake, and they may even show up on another local station there, such as Parkfield, but and then nothing gets popped up there on the map. Nothing shows up. So it's a little odd. I mean, nothing big showing up there now. I think most of the activity working its way across this area with the Cascadia Subduction Zone Earthquake activity, 3.6, and one around the Blanco Fracture Zone. Let's see, where's my Earthquakes Canada here? Let's see what's going on up there in Canada real quick. Here's the map. Here's the map. Here's the map. Okay, there's that most recent earthquake there, very close to the Cascadia Subduction Zone, which sits right. It extends from north here, this line, the right line, the blue dark line here, all the way down there into Northern California. But that earthquake, very close there to the Cascadia. Looks like they've had a number of earthquakes out here around the plate boundary. This is going to be between the Explorer. It's a very small microplate. A lot of people just assume this is one as a whole, as a Juan de Fuca plate. But there's actually three separate plates here. Gorda plate down south, which cuts off right about here. Juan de Fuca plate, the larger of the three. And then you got the Explorer plate, roughly this line here where all the earthquake activity is happening northward to this, roughly about this area here. So, but a little bit more movement up here across the northern end than what we're seeing across the southern end right now. But obviously that could change. And of course the Cascadia, a major subduction zone there off the Pacific Northwest. You know, we got that massive low pressure center out here spinning off the coast. And I've seen it before. These hurricanes, typhoons, massive areas of low pressure can affect the plates out here, the stress and the strain, and induce earthquake activity out here. We've seen it throughout the years. Has it been scientifically proven? No, it's a kind of a theory, but I've watched it. And that kind of makes sense now. It could be, whether it's a coincidence or not, that we're seeing elevated seismic activity out here now due to that low pressure system spinning off in this area of the Cascadia. Could be affecting that plate. Little theory, but you have to, obviously have to watch and pay attention to these little events. All right, folks, I am out of here. Again, that little earthquake there on China Lake. Can't think of if there's anything else going on here. Nothing major going on in the asteroid department, I don't think. Hopefully not. Nothing of close calls. Got some big asteroids out there. Really not all that big. 170 foot is the largest one. But look at that distance there. Almost 4 million miles away. Safely passing us there. All right. Let me see. Got my voice. Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening for the Thursday night update. Take care.